Hey everyone, my first video. Um, let's see what I want to talk about. I guess just things in general that are going on with me. Um, let's see. I just volunteered at the film festival. That was a very interesting experience. Um, it was spring break last week, and I'm not too broke to go out of town, but I just didn't really want to spend the money just to go out of town. So, and it happened to be the same week as the film festival, so I thought I'd volunteer. My professor was like, it's a great way to get involved and network and stuff. And so that's what I did. I'm really sort of I feel socially awkward when I'm not familiar with everyone in the room. I mean, if I know everybody, it's a whole different story. But if I'm not familiar with everybody in the room, it's like, I'm sort of a wallflower a little bit. Um, but what I witnessed firsthand is just how to network with people, and that the film industry is so open to new people. It's not a closed system where you have to like, please, can I come in and knock on the door? And especially when you're an independent filmmaker, which at this point I am. Um, I've met this guy named Danny Madden, and I'm not sure if he knows what effect he had on my life, but it was a big one. And I'll give him a shout out. He directed this film that was being shown called Euphonia. 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 I didn't get a chance to see it at the screening because I was posted at another theater. But anyway, I was posted at the theater where his screening was going to be shown, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, who do I talk to get permission to hang my poster or whatever?" He was so friendly, and the he just sort of like you know what they say about Tom Cruise? I've heard this said about Tom Cruise. When he's talking to you, you're the only person in the world. This is what this guy did, Danny. Like he totally. I feel like he saw me as a person. It's very strange, very strange. But more than anything, I realized, wow, this is how you do it. You just go up and you just start talking to people. I think I can do that. Or, if even if I have to fake it, I've done some acting in my life. I've won some acting awards. If I have to fake it enough, to be able to get real comfortable with it, then that's what I'll do. So, I directed him to my supervisor, and he got the posters hung up, and I was like, and then after he hung up the posters, he was talking to some other people at this booth area, and he was just, saying what he had done and where he had just come from. He just come from South by Southwest, and I was like, oh, this is so, because to me the whole concept of networking was so intimidating for some reason. Just to go up to a complete and total stranger to just start talking, and I'm like, how do you do that? And is the other person going to think that I'm weird? Is the other person going to think that I want something from them? um, how does this work? Like, you have to be a special person to be able to do that. That was my impression of what networking was. And Danny showed me in a very personal way, and just by me observing him when he was talking to the other people, people don't mind being talked to. People don't mind, you taking an interest in them, because to him it wasn't totally one-sided. He seemed interested in what you were doing when it was an exchange. And he just was so large, with his presence was so large and engaging and all that. So coincidentally, I was posted later in the week at the same film festival. I was posted at another theater, and the show was about to start, and I was happened to be standing down by the screen, just being a presence to be able to answer any questions while people were getting seated or whatever. And who do I come see bounding down the stairs toward me? Hey, I remember you. You're. And I said Roman, and I was like, you're Danny. And of course, I remembered him because he had such a profound effect on me. I said, I just started talking to him. Are you excited? His screening was still yet in a couple of days. Are you excited? And are you having a good time at the film festival? And we just started, conversing. And I said I have to tell him, and I told him. I said, you know what, you taught me something, and I went on to tell him, what I just told you guys. And I asked him. I said, is that ever off-putting to people? Is that ever off-putting? And you just coming up and shaking hands and just saying, "Hey, I'm here." And he said, usually not. He said one time, um, some person was just like really not interested. It was just like, go away. And I said, oh, I wonder, was that in New York or something? He said, no, it was in Boston. I said, yeah, and he said, but for the most part, people like, people if they don't feel like you're gonna harm them in any way, people don't mind you coming up and talking to them. So, but just as we were starting to really get into it, the lights began to dim, and so that was that. Um, but that was a good experience. It was overall the film festival as a volunteer was a good experience. I got to see behind the scenes how a film festival works. Um, there's a lot that goes into it, and in this particular film festival, the volunteers, like, they could not do it without volunteers. Could not possibly do it without volunteers. So, um, and whew, it was a lot of work. One takeaway as a moviegoer, I will always clean up after myself, because part of the job when you're posted at the theater is to help clean the theater between the screenings, because who wants to come into a dirty theater, right, to watch a movie? And I was just blown away at how grown people dirty up, their surroundings at the movies. I guess because, oh, somebody's paid to clean up after me. So, but in this case, we weren't paid to do it. We were volunteering. But I guess, that's the mentality, and I'm sure I've been guilty of it too. When I was a kid, like as an adult, I cannot recall one moment where I said, well, somebody will get. I'll take my stuff and I put it in the trash can. Like, I didn't get that. I didn't get that. So I'm pleading with everyone, when you go to the movies, please clean up after yourself, because we're all grown, right? I mean, that's what kids do. But anyway, I have a whole new respect for people who have to do that every day when they go to work. That's annoying. But I saw a lot of great films. Some of the films I saw, well, there was a great compilation of documentary shorts. There was this short film about this guy who and his girlfriend who, like, they've invested everything into giving these private dinner parties where he cooks everything from scratch. And he said, it's all or nothing. This is what we're doing, and we hope that it's a success. And by the end of the documentary, you see from the titles that they're growing by leaps and bounds. But that was kind of cool, because just to see somebody who's living outside of the box. Um, the Sapphires, I got to see the Sapphires, which is not out in theaters yet, but that was really fun. It's inspired by a true story about a group of sisters who, and they're Aborigines in Australia, who can really sing and get the opportunity to go and perform for the troops in Vietnam. In Vietnam, and there was a love story wrapped up in it, of course, because you can't go wrong with a love story, and adventure and explosions and really good singing, which I love. Really good singing, great acting. The writing was fun. Um, yeah, so when it comes out, and I'm not sure of the release date, you should definitely go see it. I give that an A plus. Um, what else did I like? What other movie did I like? I can't think of another movie that really stood out. I know Sapphire took the day. Like, out of all the movies that I saw, Sapphire took the day. The first film that opened the film festival, which I got a chance to see, was Mud, starring Matthew McConaughey, and that's not out in theaters yet either. That was pretty good. You forget, it reminded me, first of all, that Matthew McConaughey can act. because you see him as this kind of like good-looking movie star, kind of like Tom Cruise. There's a difference between somebody who's known as an actor and someone who's known as a movie star. And I put Tom Cruise in that category. For a while, it's been Matthew McConaughey. Um, Zac Efron is sort of a movie star, although he hasn't had a lot of big movie blockbuster hits. But an actor is more like a Daniel Day-Lewis type, or Tim Robbins. He's an actor. You know what I mean. But so this is what this movie reminded me, that he can act. Like, and it was well written. It was well shot. Also, what's her name? Reese Witherspoon was in it, and she did the same thing. I was like, oh, and she's a movie star type to me. She's known. Oh, this is Reese Witherspoon. You don't think that she's gonna like do this miraculous, change in her persona when she makes the movie. She's gonna be Reese Witherspoon playing this character. But she reminded me that she has some acting chops, because this was not a role that you would see her in usually. And that's what I love about independent filmmaking. Like, it takes the formula of filmmaking and just, throws it out the window usually. But all in all, that was a good experience. That was a very good experience. Anybody, any film major or anybody studying film who wants to get into the business, I totally recommend it as an experience to volunteer at a film festival. There were a lot of different types of posts. I chose the theater post because I wanted to see the movies for free. But you could do the parties. You could help with transportation, taking people back to the hotels and to the theaters. You could do that. Um, I forget the other post, but there was a couple. There were a couple of more things that you could specialize in. Yeah, there was a post where you could be like in the headquarters office helping to coordinate or whatever. So when I started out, I was just scheduled for like 3 shifts, or like 4-hour shifts, and by the end of it, I had done over 40 hours because I was enjoying it that much. Um, and then if you did 40 hours, you could get like a free pass to like next year's festival. And I was like, okay, this is like a win-win. Next year I can go as like a spectator, um, and I don't have to work it. I don't have to go like the back doorway to see all these great, great movies. Also, I almost forgot the seminars. If you're volunteering, like that's another, bonus. The seminars, like I went to a DSLR, which is a type of camera. It's an affordable type of camera that has shoots in great quality, movie quality. So it doesn't look like you're shooting on a camcorder or anything. I went to a sound seminar, which sound and lighting both. I realized what I don't know about that portion of movie making. I didn't realize, I mean, when you think about it, sure, but I didn't realize how much goes into lighting. Oh my gosh, like just if you're standing in a different area of the room, the lighting, obviously, and as I say this, it seems obvious, but you just don't think that it's that complicated, but it is. You could be standing over here and then move a few inches over here, and the lighting is hitting you differently, and everything has to be adjusted accordingly because the camera is going to see, it's going to pick up, and you're going to be that light is going to be reflect off of you in a different way, and the camera's going to see it in a different way. It's like, wow. Like, one demonstration she did, the lady who was leading the workshop, she put a bag of M&Ms on the table, and she shined some kind of light on it. I should have been paying closer attention. I don't know what kind of light it was, but she shined a light on it, and it made it change different colors. And she was like, "This is what you can do with people." Like, I was like, "Oh gosh." I mean, the bottom line is, if you don't know, as the director, as a producer, which is going to be me for the most part, then get somebody on your team who knows what they're doing, Oh gosh, that's gonna be interesting. Also with sounds, all this, I mean, everything's gone digital. Like, and that's the thing about the film industry. You might not see it as like an average moviegoer, but a lot more movies are being shot digitally as opposed to being shot on film. So of course that revolutionizes the whole game in terms of filmmaking. Like for instance, and Keanu Reeves of all people has a great documentary on it that we watched in Film Club a few weeks ago. It's called Side by Side, and it talks about this very issue where back in the day, the workday would be such that things were like everybody was on it, like in terms of like being quick and being very resourceful because you didn't want to have to pay for all of this film that you were shooting on. Now it's digital. Like you could shoot for hours. You could shoot for hours and catch things that you wouldn't catch because you were reserving your resources when you were shooting on film. It's a whole different game. But anyway, in terms of sound, things like we're shooting on like a little discs. What do you call those? I don't feel like a moron, but little like discs that would store the video information. And like they're sensitive to static electricity. So you know how you go and touch the door and your finger pops or whatever. Like if that happens to this little disc, everything that's on it is probably going to be wiped out. Like who knows that? I would have known that if I hadn't gone to the seminar. Like also another big takeaway, which is what lighting and sound, both of the different two seminars said the same thing. Shooting on one camera may seem like you're doing less, but you're actually doing more. You're helping yourself out more because if you're shooting with two cameras and having two different angles, you're setting up the lighting for two cameras, and it just compounds the whole setup process, even more. So why not shoot this angle first and then change and reset up and shoot this angle? It's like, oh, that makes sense. Same with sounds. Like like when you're shooting two different people with two different cameras, like the sound, like it's amazing. And then the boom mics, you think it's easy to do the boom mics, but it's not as easy as it looks because you have to be wary of everything. Where you're shooting, are you near an airport? Is there a train coming? Is there somebody in the background laughing? It's like wow. Then I went to a post production seminar, and then that was pretty informative because they had a whole another set of suggestions. You have to shoot um, for your post people, the people who are going to be editing your film together. Like you have to keep them in mind the whole time from the beginning to the end. And they said the thing that people do most is they forget that this is going to have to come together as a cohesive unit in the end, and people forget that. So that was good. Lighting sound. Oh, SAG Indie. SAG Indie is a company that it's a nonprofit organization that helps independent filmmakers be able to use SAG actors legally. Legally meaning by the laws of the SAG Guild. Um, it can be done. It's just a matter of doing it the right way and above board so that you don't get fined as the filmmaker and the actor doesn't get fined as the actor. And then once you get fined, you have a bad reputation because they're always watching your productions and blah blah. So it's just good to do everything above board. I didn't know all that went into that. I didn't know that I could even, excuse me, I didn't know that I could even consider using a SAG actor as an independent filmmaker. But you can. There are ways to get around that, or ways in which to do that, that keep great actors available for independent films. Um, Also, what I loved was a lot of the screenings I went to had the filmmakers there. So there was a Q&A session after the film. That's what is great about film festivals. You don't get that going to AMC or Rico or anything. You don't. You just see the movie and you go home. But here, the filmmaker whose vision it was is there to share with you what it was like to make this movie. And there, I learned about Kickstarter. You know how a lot of filmmakers use Kickstarter to help finance their film. Um, and it helped to demystify the whole game for me. And to me, that's so important. To me, it helped me to see that just just do it. Just do it. That was my takeaway. Just start it out. Just pick up a camera and start shooting. Even if you go out to the park and just start shooting and bring it home and try to cobble something together and make a story out of it, you have to start somewhere. You're not going to be Spielberg overnight. You're not. There are no shortcuts. At the DSLR, which is a type of camera that I talked about earlier, at the DSLR workshop, the lady heading it said it, I think, best. She said, in the beginning, be willing to work for free. Be willing to help as many people out with their projects, because when it comes time, not only is that good karma or whatever, but it helps to get your name out there to people who are doing this, on a consistent basis. And then when it's time for you to have help on your project, they'll in turn help you or refer you to people who would be willing to help you, for free or for very little money or whatever. So, of course, that makes sense, but having a professional say that, you know, gives it a credibility that, otherwise, if some layperson was saying it, it wouldn't. So, I think that's the next film festival that comes to your town, try to get in early and see how you can get a volunteer gig, because this was a relatively small film festival, but I imagine Sundance. Can you imagine? Or California film festivals out there. I'm sure like it's a huger production. I mean, you're going to be able to network that with a whole lot more people than I was. So I would say don't turn your nose up at it. It's a good back door into, you know, this community that is so welcoming. It's competitive, sure, but it's so welcoming. And one of the post people said this, that it, every nobody, from what they see, nobody is really out to beat anybody else. They're all in the same game. And if I can't do this project at this time, I'm going to call such and such and give him the project. So I don't know. It was all in all, it was a great experience. It was a great way to spend my spring break. Um, and I hope it doesn't fall on spring break next year. Don't get me wrong. Because I think I'd want to do something different from my next spring break, my last spring break of college. But it was a great experience, and I recommend it totally, totally. So, all you filmmakers out there, that's my little 2 cents, and hope you got something out of it. And I'll catch you later. Bye.